Digital transformation is one of the hot topics of our time. But what do we mean by digital transformation? What are the operational issues that are involved? What are the complexities? What are the opportunities? I'm Michael Krigsman. I'm an industry analyst and the host of CXOTalk. And today we are speaking with Hervé Coureil, who is the Chief Digital Officer of Schneider Electric. I want to say a heartfelt thank you to IPsoft. Right now, we are in their AI Experience Lab, which is their innovation center in New York City. And I'm so grateful that IPsoft is making this episode of CXOTalk possible. Now, before we begin, please tell your friends to watch, tell your family, and for sure, subscribe on YouTube. Hervé, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me.
So, you're the Chief Digital Officer of Schneider Electric.
Indeed.
Tell us about Schneider Electric.
Well, Schneider Electric is a pretty big company, actually, very global, 25 billion revenue, more or less, 144,000 employees. We call ourselves the global specialist in energy management and automation. Our job in life is to make energy safe, reliable, efficient, and sustainable. So, and we do it in a few very, very specific end markets. So home, buildings, infrastructure, data center, on industries and factories. So that's really, what Schneider is, very, very global, and a very, very global company. And really efficiency is our motto. We are, thinking day and night about how to make energy, the consumption of energy efficient, and how to make processes that are powered by energy efficient.
Now, you're the Chief Digital Officer. So at Schneider Electric, what does that role encompass?
So, digital is a big deal in Schneider Electric. As I said, right, what wakes up every morning is a business of efficiency. It's really how we make the consumption of energy efficient, how we make processes efficient. If you want to make a process, a building, an infrastructure energy efficient, it's not just about energy. So it's not just about moving electrons. You also need to move bits. You also need to move an information content together with energy. And that's really where the world of energy, the world of information, sort of energy technology, information technology, are blending together. So suddenly, everything is digital. So in Schneider Electric, our digital transformation is not only about digitizing and doing things differently, but it's also about becoming digital. It's about, creating digital services and do different things.
So it sounds like you are transforming digitally yourselves, and you're also helping your customers through helping enable their digital transformation as well.
That's absolutely true. I mean, our customers, which are in, either in building, industries, infrastructure, data center, I mean, energy is a big deal for them. Their digital transformation encompasses improving their efficiency, improving how they consume energy, improving how they run their processes. So a big deal of what we do is indeed helping our customers transforming digitally. It's about, I was speaking about the world of energy, the world of IT coming together. It's also how the world of operational technology, or OT, and IT are coming together, because again, it's not only about running a process, it's not only about distributing energy, it's doing it efficiently. And to do it efficiently, you need to consume information, you need to be real time. And suddenly, digital is everywhere. It's really at the heart of the value we want to provide our customers.
So let's unpack this a little bit, because when you talk about energy efficiency, on the surface, it's not clear why there's a digital transformation component there, right? It's like, okay, let's be sure to turn out the lights when we go home. But it's more obviously it's much more complex than that.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, you have various levels of sort of complexity, sophistication, etc. But if you take a building, the building is like almost a living organism, an ecosystem. I mean, you have people moving in and out, you have weather, sun or not, HVAC, elevators, people badging. So suddenly, how do you make that building, that ecosystem efficient? How do you really are able in real time to make decisions that would allow you, to take a hotel, for instance, to turn the lights on or off, to sort of change your HVAC conditions, etc. So it's really interesting. If you really want to make a big dent from an energy standpoint, it's not just about things. It's not just about breakers, etc. It's about connecting those things. And here it really becomes interesting because at one level, you want to connect those things on premise because you have a local control system that will be in the building, in the factory floor, and so forth. You don't want to depend on network. You want to be absolute deterministic real time. And at the same time, the cloud, and what comes with the cloud, take artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so forth, allows you beyond the particular building, beyond the particular shop floor, to aggregate information and suddenly to think about how can you become predictive, how can you drive predictive maintenance, how can you drive optimization algorithms that are going to take weather data into account, for instance, in order to tune your energy consumption even more.
It sounds like you're designing products both from the standpoint of energy efficiency, but almost equally so from the standpoint of usability.
So that's indeed very important. In the world of industrial automation, connecting a product to a local control system is not new, right? Because that has been done for ages. Now again, the superpower of the cloud suddenly gives you much more ability and allows you to create much more value than before. And indeed, the experience that you're giving with your products becomes super important. So we're really spending a lot of time thinking about how to provide the best experience, an experience that's consistent, that's intuitive. It's a big deal because the world of enterprise IT and the world of our personal IT at home, right, have evolved, and nobody wants a very bad user interface anymore. I mean, everybody wants to be able to operate through their mobile phone, tomorrow through voice. So it's very much a big deal for us to stay ahead from that perspective.
So you've been talking about AI, machine learning. So what does that enable you to do? And what's the data set that you're operating on? What kind of data are you collecting, aggregating, and then analyzing?
AI enables you to drive efficiency, right? I mean, there's many things internally. You're digitizing, right? You're doing things differently, where AI allows you to do things, scoring leads or whatever that you would not have been able to do before. So that's one thing. There's another element which is really everything around customer experience. I mean, voice, vision. Only those two things, which are sort of powered by AI and machine learning in the back end, are amazing. And we really see voice, for instance, being quite a big deal, not only in our industry, right, but in many different aspects. So really in customer experience, you have AI is kind of a new computing platform, and we are seeing more and more customer experiences being developed on top of that new computing platform. And then you add a third block, which is really how you add AI in our products. Our products, of course, are sort of very technology intensive. I mean, they are here to solve a very specific real world problem. So they are at the intersection of digital as a platform, but also with very, very deep and profound knowledge and segment expertise. So you take a very deep segment expertise, you take digital capabilities, you mesh them together, and that's where how we really envisage AI and machine learning in our products. So, for instance, preventative maintenance, predictive analytics, optimization algorithm are things that we embed in our digital services that are going to augment our product, really meshing together deep AI knowledge with the very deep segment expertise. Because if you want to have good AI as artificial intelligence, you need to have good IA as information architecture. And you need to understand the data model. You need to understand how the data is structured. So when you have that deep segment expertise, you understand how data is structured, and you're able really to leverage that segment expertise to perform function and enhance your augment your product and your services very, very considerably.
So what now do your customers expect from you in terms of outcomes, and how is that feeding back into your product design, product development?
So, it's interesting. When we created the digital team and our IoT team, one of the first thing we did was realizing that you had the product development and you had digital service development, and that the key for us was to blend the two, and that for digital services development, we needed to put customer at the center of it. So we've created a process, we call it the Digital Service Factory internally, but that basically allows us to start with design thinking sessions with customer, testimonials, interactions, etc., where we try to make sure, are we solving the right problem? Have we expressed the right problem with the right outcome, and so forth. So we've really been changing the way we address customers. We're also looking at how some of our partners and customers are behaving. Try really to learn from their real life problems. So it's interesting because more and more, we're a very engineering sort of centric company, very technology centric, but more and more design thinking, like ethnography, understanding the human behavior is becoming also as important, and it's really about how blending the two, how you blend the two, which is a significant change that digital is bringing us.
Why does digital take you down this path of where we can even talk about design thinking, which is empathy, or you use the term ethnography? What about digital transformation takes us there? I mean, you're this hardcore engineering company in energy.
True.
How do we end up there?
I think it's interesting because digital, when you think about it, it does a lot of impact. But one of the very interesting aspects of digital, it gets you to sort of model how we're thinking as human, and it gets you very close to human behaviors. I mean, you need to understand in a strange way, right? The more you have machine learning, the more you go through the path of AI, the more you need to understand how the mind works, the more you need to understand how people behave. So suddenly behavior, you're not just about a 0 or 1 type of product that's on or off, right? You are evolving, you are sort of optimizing an ecosystem. An ecosystem is made of people. People are behaving. So suddenly that people science, right, the social science becomes something that you need to basically take into account.
But why? How does this take you into needing to understand people better? What's the link?
I think because people and machine, at the end of the day, we interact together. You take a building, you take many factories. I mean, they're made of people. And we like to think about how we complement people, how we augment people, how we make them more performing, how we empower them. And you can't do that without really deeply understanding
Yes.
what an operator needs, what a C-level need, you know, having your personas right, and applying the right design thinking. And so when you get away from this analog type 0-1 and to, you know, something that's much more complex, you need to embed human behaviors in how you design your systems.
Hervé, would it be accurate to say that as you're aggregating this data, you need to have an even more profound sense of that domain knowledge you were talking about, because now, because of the aggregated data, your products can do so much more nuanced, that if you don't have that deep sense of the domain, you'll miss the mark.
I think so. I really think that, you know, we saw an era where, you know, we had like massive internet companies, right? Like the big technology platforms, very agnostic, very horizontal, etc. I think we are now moving on an area where we are transforming specific, you know, areas of the industry, of the economy, etc. If you're really about transforming an industry, then, you know, it's how you mesh a deep understanding of an industry with a deep ability to use technology. So you're not selling technology, you're solving problems with technology. And that's just a completely different approach.
Is that your goal, to transform the industry?
Yes.
You're a 200-year-old company, which means you have gone through many transformations, but this description of digital, of using the data, of AI, I have to imagine is driving internal change to Schneider Electric. And maybe you can talk about that. I think the change is one of the most difficult parts of transformation for any company.
Absolutely. I mean, we all hate change, right? Deep down. But I think when we look at our digital transformation and we apply it to Schneider Electric, we see 5 big pillars, if you will. We sort of discussed the first one at length, which is really how we're transforming our offers, how we're transforming the services, the product, the system that we are providing to our customers, to augment them, to provide more value to customers. And that's the EcoStruxure architecture and how we enhance it with AI and analytics, etc., on IoT that I was mentioning before. The second pillar is really thinking about experiences. So thinking about mobile, thinking about voice, thinking about having an end-to-end experience for our customers, you know, where we make things simple for them, whether it's a C-level executive, an operator, just somebody who wants to browse our catalog of product, you know, how do you make it relevant, context-rich right away? So the experience is, of course, a very big deal that sort of spans a continuum of, you know, customer experience, partner experience, even employee experience. The third pillar of our transformation is really security, because you can't be in operational technologies, you can't be a large company without a laser-sharp focus on technology, on security, obviously. The fourth area is really talent. Talent sort of echoes the previous conversation, I feel, where we want to have a mesh between people who have that segment expertise and people who have that digital understanding, who are digital disruptors. So having a mix of talent, a mix of leadership, where we blend people that understand deeply the segments where we operate, and people who understand technology, digital, and how digital is disrupting everything. On the fifth pillar, so we spoke about offer on EcoStruxure, we spoke about experience, we spoke about security, we spoke about talent. The fifth one is foundations. And that's probably one of the trickiest ones, because whatever you like, if you're a large company, if you grow through M&A, right, you have added a lot of applications. You have citizen developers that have defined, that little bit of software here, that little piece of application there. Very quickly, your foundation, they can be on the critical path of your digital transformation. So it's very important to sort of think how you are unpacking the monolith, how you are unbundling the monolith, so that you can expose, specific services and consume them in different contexts. And working on the foundation is something that's super important. As I like to say, you can't spell digital without IT. And foundation is a big deal. And if you don't take care of it, if you don't apply a great amount of thinking on how you're going to architect it, how you're going to make sure that it's going to enable your transformation, not get in the way, you can be at risk of slowing down. And the last thing you want to do at times of digital transformation is to be slowing down.
Mm-hmm. And what about metrics, measurements? How do you evaluate digital transformation?
So you may know I started in finance, so I kept from that a passion for metrics that you can't imagine. But we track metrics in every of the 5 pillars, right, that I was mentioning from a digital transformation standpoint. And we have what we call the digital barometer, that is sort of the overall scorecard, if you will, of our digital success. When we have an executive committee, we look at our people scorecard, we look at our financial scorecard, we look at our quality on people satisfaction, customer satisfaction scorecard. And now we look at our digital scorecard in addition. And the digital scorecard sort of tracks those 5 pillars. So on offers, we look at, of course, how we are developing and on growing those new offers. On experiences, we look at how happy our customers are with us digitally. And we look at having better scores with digital engagement than with physical engagements. With security, we have, of course, a lot of specific security metrics that we look at. With talent, we look at how much we are in our teams, we are blending digital talents with people who have the segment expertise that we were talking about earlier on. And then in foundation, we look at the health of our landscape, and we look at how we are doing in terms of driving the simplification, if you will, of our application landscape, and how well we are doing in exposing services and making our foundation an asset, not a liability.
That's really interesting. So you have a very, very detailed framework going across. I was going to say digital transformation framework, but it's a business operational framework that has digital components, and so you're measuring the business against these very clearly defined points.
You are right, and there's also an element that we haven't touched on that I think is super important when you start, thinking about metrics and so forth. It's really resource allocation, because I think that a big deal is how you have a portfolio of initiatives. Back to experimentation, right? Some will fail, some will succeed, some will get big, but how do you allocate resource? How do you allocate resource between operating systems and creating new systems, and then just ideating and incubating totally new ideas? So I'm very passionate, again, probably the finance background, but I'm very, very passionate about how we're allocating resource. And I think that the precision in resource allocation, the thinking, the deep thinking behind where do you put your money is super fundamental, and actually is one, probably, I would say, of the big predictors of success. If you just spend money based on, what you had last year, and there's no real choice, versus, having a fairly transparent marketplace of projects that sort of compete in a healthy way for resource, on having very explicit decisions to say, this is what I'm going to do because I feel that, right? And I have success metrics, I have golden metrics. I know whether I'm on track or not. That makes a world of difference. So we did spend a lot of time in creating that resource allocation theory or framework that I think is extremely important, because again, you're looking transversally at a lot of different things, so you need to figure out where to invest and promote speed. You don't want your resource allocation process to become a bureaucracy.
So for you, digital transformation is not some sort of general abstract goal. Oh, we're gonna do some more marketing.
No, I love marketing, you know, but it goes well beyond. It goes well beyond that, and I think that's what I like. It touches so many things, right? I mean, we were speaking about AI earlier, right? It's how you are digitizing internally. It's how you are transforming your business to become a digital business. It's how you are creating things that are very, very specific to solve very, very particular problems. It's how you are leveraging platforms in order to reuse what exists versus reinventing. So it has so many different facets. It's very, very holistic from that perspective.
Now, as we finish up, one final question for you. So it's very clear that Schneider Electric is very far along the digital transformation maturity curve. And so people who are watching that are thinking, how do I do this? You know, I want to do this too. How do they begin? What's most important?
I think, you know, it's really probably a healthy paranoia. It's waking up every morning and looking not only at your direct competitors, but also at what's happening in other industries. What has happened in media, what has happened, you know, in the travel world, and so forth. So it's really this paranoia that you're never doing enough. I mean, success, you know, can bring complacency, etc. So, and you don't want that to happen. So if there's one piece of advice, or one thing that I try to, you know, wake up every morning, you know, having that in mind, it's really make sure that we're not becoming complacent. Yes, you know, we're doing some good things, but never fast enough, never good enough. So, and we are always sure that somebody could go faster and better. So looking, you know, not just your industry, but besides your industry boundary, is something that's super important, because at the end of the day, technology is a big flattener. Technology flattens everything. So what's happening in another industry might end up, you know, impacting you after a while. I think so this paranoia is super important. And on the other aspect that I touched upon is, you know, how do you create a mindset of empowerment over control? And I think that's very, very key, especially in today's world, in the digital world. You need to be genuinely looking at empowering others, whether those are customers, partners, employees, associates, whatever.
So healthy paranoia that pushes you all the time to improve, and at the same time empowering your employees so that this healthy paranoia is distributed through the whole organization and everybody is pushing hard.
Absolutely.
Hervé Coureil, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me.
We have been speaking with Hervé Coureil, who is the Chief Digital Officer at Schneider Electric. Once again, subscribe on YouTube, and I want to say again a very heartfelt thank you to IPsoft for making this possible. We are in their AI experience lab called Amelia City in New York City. Thanks everybody, and we will see you soon.